Tropical Depression Grace is making recovery efforts even more difficult in Haiti, where rescuers are still searching for earthquake survivors. The storm dumped heavy rain.
Hello, today I present to you an extremely attractive application for music lovers. It's completely free. You can listen to music online or download unlimited music to use whenever you don't have internet. The powerful search function helps you find anything you want. Trust me. It's hard not to find what you're looking for because the search function is really powerful. Application download link is attached in the description of the video. I'm pretty sure you'll like it. Thanks.
And caused flooding in areas already affected by the powerful 7.2 magnitude quake. More than 1,900 people have died so far. Thousands of others are injured and many remain missing. Vladimir Duthiers is in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince.
More misery fell on Haiti today as the remnants of Tropical Depression Grace battered the country with heavy rain. We flew to the hardest hit areas because some of the roads are blocked by mudslides. From the air, the destruction is not obvious. It's only when you get on the ground that the full scope of the devastation becomes clear.
I'm standing on the rubble of what used to be a 4-story hotel here in Haiti. When the earthquake struck on Saturday, several people were crushed and killed, including a former Haitian senator. And that's the thing about earthquakes. They don't discriminate.
Many of the homes and businesses in Haiti, one of Haiti's largest cities, have been destroyed, forcing survivors to camp out in the open. This is the village of Maniche. Mayor David Brina says 98% of the town has been obliterated. He says the most urgent need right now are tents and materials to rebuild their homes.
When you get up close to these homes, you can see the full scale and destruction of the earthquake. This car was completely flattened by the collapsing building. If you look across the street here, this church has stood in the town of Maniche for over 110 years, utterly destroyed.
This woman says she lost her home and her sister in the quake. Mireille says she's traumatized right now and she doesn't have anywhere to go. Despite the anguish, there are small miracles. Today, 16 people were pulled out alive from a collapsed building in a neighborhood not far from here.
And Vlad joins us now. Vlad, these images are just heartbreaking. Can you tell us more about how things are looking on the ground and how has that storm impacted the recovery efforts?
Yeah, Elaine, let's take your last question first. The storm, even though it wasn't as bad as some had predicted, did cause rivers to overflow, did create mudslides in certain parts of the country, specifically parts of the country that have been affected by the earthquake. And what does that mean? That means folks can't get to urban areas where they can receive medical attention. In fact, in the village that we were visiting today, Maniche, which you saw in our reporting there, they are requesting urgent need. They don't have any clean water. They don't have food to eat. Their homes have been utterly destroyed. 98% of that village is gone now, and the folks are sleeping outside. But what they told us is that the folks that are living beyond the village, closer up to the mountains, beyond those swollen rivers, beyond those mudslides, are in dire straits because no one can get to them. We were able to get to Maniche because we took a helicopter in. We couldn't go any further because the helicopter can't land on that side of the mountain. So that means that there's an inability to get medical supplies and food and urgent medical attention to folks beyond that one tiny village. As far as Maniche is concerned, that village basically had one hospital. That hospital was gone, is gone. And so that's why yesterday we told you and our viewers about the really critically injured Haitians who were coming here to the capital of Port-au-Prince to receive some medical attention. But if you are beyond some of these villages and if you're up in the mountains, you can't get any of that medical attention. And the folks that did receive some care, they had to be ferried across on foot, Elaine, and that takes about 2 days.
Wow. You know, Vlad, last night you told us about the lack of overall infrastructure improvements in Haiti since that devastating earthquake back in 2010. What is the situation like in local hospitals now?
So there are two things. The hospitals here in Port-au-Prince, at least the ones that we visited, learned some lessons from the 2010 earthquake. We reported that, back in 2010, 200,000, 350,000. The numbers are still unclear. We will probably never know how many people were killed in the earthquake of 2010. Estimates range from 100,000 to 350,000, and many, many thousands more injured. There were bodies lining the streets of Port-au-Prince. There were bodies stacked up at the entrance of Port-au-Prince's cemetery. Within the hospitals, trying to take care of that many people, the doctors and the nurses and the medical professionals could only offer minimal care. So if they looked at an injury and it looked really, really bad, you had to amputate. What they've learned now is that they're able to offer preventative care, or they're able to offer rehabilitation. And that rehabilitation means that for somebody who may have had an amputation back in 2010, they might this time around receive some rehabilitation that will allow them to walk or to have a life. But as far as the infrastructure, Elaine, let's talk about the infrastructure. That is still a problem. The roads are still unsafe. In all the time that I've been coming to Haiti as a reporter, we've never had safe roads. Either they are, there's rubble and the roads are not navigable, or you're dealing with a criminal element who controls some of the areas on the national road. Haiti has a national road. Everybody knows it as Route Nationale. That road, sometimes certain areas of the country parts of it are controlled by bandits. So it's really, really difficult if you are a doctor, if you're an NGO, if you're a reporter, to get to some of the affected areas because of that. Secondly, we were in Maniche and we looked at a building. It was a 4-story hotel, Elaine, that was recently built. I asked the senator for that department where we were if that hotel had been built after the 2010 earthquake. He said yes, but the engineering, the architecture, the material used was not sound, and so that 4-story building collapsed, pancaked, and it killed a group of people, including the Haitian senator, as you saw in our report. So that hasn't changed. And it's mind-boggling, I'm sure, for a lot of our viewers to try and understand how billions of dollars were raised in Haiti in the wake of the 2010 earthquake and how Haiti is still suffering today.
Yeah, mind-boggling indeed. So on top of all those challenges, the president of Haiti was assassinated just last month. How has the lack of a stable government affected these relief efforts?
Well, there is an interim prime minister, Ariel Henry, and Haitians are used to this, Elaine. They're not used to having a president assassinated, but there was a president that was assassinated in the 20th century. But political instability has been part of Haiti's existence over the course of the last 25 years. And so Haitians are used to that. But there was something that was really, really interesting, Elaine, in our discussion that we had with the chief medical director of Hôpital d'Adventiste d'Haïti here in Port-au-Prince. We asked about the COVID concern because in the wake of the president's assassination, then dealing with a deadly earthquake, and on top of that with a tropical depression, there's still the risk of COVID. Haiti has not received an effective number of vaccines to vaccinate its population. There's still a lot of misinformation out there. Many Haitians are not vaccinated, and many Haitians don't wear masks. But here's what's really interesting about what this doctor told me. In the studies that have been conducted in Haiti, they've uncovered, or they've found, that at least 40% of Haitians have the antibodies for COVID-19. And so what they've seen is they have not seen the death rates and the death tolls that we've seen in other countries. And the doctor said part of it is because most patients are outdoors all day long in the fresh air. Most Haitians are confronted on a daily basis, Elaine, with bacteria and microbes that would probably land you and I in the hospital stat within a couple of hours. For Haitians who are living on the streets or even living in their homes, who are using the water runoff that is dirty and unsanitary, perhaps COVID-19 is not as devastating for them, the doctor told me, as it might be for other countries.
That is astounding to hear, Vlad. It's something that I hadn't considered before. Vladimir Duthiers, it is good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your reporting.